Any family can build generational wealth. You don't have to have a large business, you don't have to make a big in crypto, you don't have to win the lottery or even get a huge inheritance from some estranged uncle. Most family fortunes are built steadily and compound over the generations, and it all starts with one man, which can be you once you learn the 3 core strategies to create dynastic wealth. These are a large wealth event, a family business, which isn't actually what you might think, or the most accessible of these strategies, the collective strategy, which we'll be covering in this video. This approach will unlock generational wealth for your family regardless of where you are right now. Take John for example. He once worked long days just to keep the lights on, but now he owns his own home, living with his wife and 2 children, operating a family portfolio of investments. He applied this strategy as a means of seeding his family treasury and having it grow with each addition to his family. We'll be following what John did, but before we begin, I'm Ben Black. I'm a husband, father, business owner, homesteader, but most distinctively, I'm a dynasty builder. I've been learning how to turn regular families into dynasties for nearly a decade now. It's a huge passion of mine, and I've made it my mission to not only apply these lessons to my family, but to help other men do the same. I'll put a link in the description for you to grab some free resources to help you get started. This is part 1 of a 3-part series on the 3 core strategies for you to create generational wealth, so be sure to subscribe and like the video so you don't miss them and the other guides that I create. And now, let's get into the collective strategy.
You're watching Dynasty Foundry.
As husbands and fathers, we invest a lot into our family. Our journey into fatherhood starts with helping our pregnant wives, and then the sleepless nights with infants and teaching them to walk and talk, feeding, clothing, housing, playing with them, ferrying them about like a taxi service. And to the childless, this sounds like a bad deal, but we as fathers find a sense of enjoyment and fulfillment from this. We see ourselves and our children, we form memories, and we know that we're paving the way for the future. And we do all this because we love them. And the collective strategy is building family wealth with that love applied to the family finances. You're essentially doing it already, all you're doing is applying some intentionality behind it. A dynasty builder knows that the fate of his family is shaped by his actions. He also realizes that each family member is a net positive to his dynasty. The way that I like to think of it is that your family is operating 2 businesses, whether you have an actual physical business or not. The one business is the business of creating competent, capable adults, and that is in your fatherhood and how you raise your children. And then the other is setting up the generational wealth. And while we'll be covering the latter in this particular video, what is important to consider is that you really need to also focus on the fatherhood side as well. And when you do, that family member becomes part of the whole, part of the family as a unit that exists beyond yourself and the individuals that it's made out of. And know that through familial cooperation, you are able to elevate not only yourself and the family members themselves, but the family as a whole as well. While money isn't the most important factor for a family, it is still important, as is the collective time that you have as a whole. Both of these are resources that can open up opportunities for your family. Now this approach, the collective strategy, isn't an end goal for your family, it's a pathway to create the resources your family needs to establish dynastic wealth. Hopping back to John, while he was working a job, he knew he wanted bigger things for his family. He could put a bit aside, but knew that he had to be the change to break the cycle his family was in. His wife was pregnant, and so he got to work. This meant putting in more of his time to doing what he could, if only for a while. He was cutting costs, he was doing gig work, surveys, a second job, just anything he could do, he was doing. And he started putting more of his money away into an account. But instead of thinking of this as his retirement, he saw it as the seed capital to his family treasury. And this was the start of what would change the fate of his family. The way you get started is by setting aside a portion of your income to put into a family fund. And it doesn't really matter how much, but 10% is a good start. And it doesn't just have to be you, it could be your spouse's as well if she's working at the moment. You may actually do something like this already for your personal investments. What you're doing is you're taking a dynastic approach to this, and you're foregoing the wealth that you build for yourself in your retirement and putting it in the middle for the use of your family. This is actually what's done in the case of a large wealth event, which is another approach that we won't be covering right now. But you're basically doing the same thing on a slow and steady basis. And it might be done by more family members than you in the future as well, or you and your spouse for that matter. But in essence, it is the collective contributions by the family for the family. And it might seem a foreign concept to many of us in the West, but it's what many pioneers and settlers did, and it's what many immigrants do in order to establish their families in a new country. And when you think about everything else you already do for your children already, it's basically the same thing, just applied on a financial basis and then encouraged in your children. Now know that this isn't a permanent solution to creating generational wealth, but it is the most accessible path for any family at all to climb the wealth ladder and will lead to much greater things.
You're watching Dynasty Foundry.
A great mental framework for this is to think of every dollar that you make and tuck away for your family as a worker for your family empire, and that makes your job to find a means to put it to work. The way it goes out to earn for your family is going to depend on your goals. For example, if you want to build an asset that produces as close to passive income as possible, dividend stocks are pretty good. And if you want to grow it as much as possible so when your kids are your age it can be repurposed, then growth stocks might be a better option. In the comment section, I'm going to put a list of ways that you can put your money to work. So head down there and check it out. And while you're there, why not let us know what you're doing to build your family funds and how you're planning on putting them to work if you already have a plan. I'll be interested to hear. But just because you are investing for the long run, because you have that dynastic mindset, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily locked into that path. The reason I bring up stocks is because they're easily liquidatable or liquefiable, whichever the two it is. And that way you're able to repurpose the funds for other means later. Now back to John. He started out building a dividend growth portfolio. He was time limited with a growing family, and this was the best option for him, especially because they were easy to cash out of. He thought about growth stocks, but the idea of replacing his wife, Jonita's part-time income was more appealing, so he chased that. He was putting away $500 a month, and after 7 years, he had $50,000 in investments, producing $2,600 in dividends. But one day, in his pursuit to increase his income, he picked up lawn mowing. He had a beat-up old mower that needed replacing, so he tapped into his family funds and bought a nice mower and a few other tools for a couple of grand. After working weekends, he mowed a few lawns, and those combined brought in another $250 a month, which was more than he would have got for that couple of grand tied up in dividend stocks. And more than that, it gave his family upward mobility. The skills he developed from watching lawn care videos increased his earning capacity. The reputation that John was building from his work was helping bring new customers through word of mouth. Now both of those are different forms of inheritable wealth in the form of intellectual and social capital, which also tie into the collective strategy. If you teach your kids and leverage your reputation, these two add to your family's overall capability, meaning that you're able to move up and create more wealth and opportunity for your family.
You're watching Dynasty Foundry.
The real power and compounding effect of the collective strategy comes in as your children become more capable. Now, the collective strategy applies to more than money. It can be on time, it could be on skills, it could be network knowledge. But as the financial element is quantifiable, it gives a lot of perspective. So think about if both of you and your adult kids set aside a portion of your incomes to put into a pooled funds, the option that you have as a family really open up. As a whole, you'll be able to accomplish more than you could as individuals. So a couple might not be able to purchase a house or service a mortgage, but a family of 4 adults can combine their incomes to purchase a home or multifamily property to turn into a family compound. And these funds can be used to buy a business that your kids work in or to subsidize their tuition, which is something that a lot of middle class and immigrant families alike do now. What John did was once he had a few lawns going, he employed his teenage son after he taught him what he needed to know. After school, John Jr. went to mow lawns, and this let him take on even more lawns than before. Junior told his friends' parents and put out flyers and picked up more lawns that way, and their collective time, knowledge and network led to greater opportunities for the family as a whole. Then John Sr. had an idea. Junior was interested in business, mostly thanks to John's influence, and he wasn't particularly interested in going to college. So together, they used their family funds to buy small local lawn runs of other people and then rolled them into their business. They added in their other services like gardens and bought a truck. They also hired Jonita to answer calls, manage payments and marketing. From John's small initial contributions, they had started the core of their family empire, still backed by John's day job income as a safety net. The perspective shift of working a job as a means to an end and it being an income stream for your family empire is huge. The same applies across the board for all the resources that your family have. Time being the most valuable of them all. After all, it's the one that we don't get any more of. Now, this doesn't have to apply to business as it does in John's case. A quick example of this was when I was a young man. I used to work like 80 to 100 hours a week. And I know, insane, I know, I don't know how I did it now, but that was just the standard for me. And I did this while I lived at home. So instead of having to always be cooking all my own meals and having to pay rent, which was huge in the city that I was able to stay at home, save money in that way, work a lot more hours, and put the basis of assets underneath my family that helped me build the wealth that I have to this day. Another way to help build this fund is if you and your adult children pool money together to purchase assets that are outside your options as individuals. So what John did was he used the funds from his business and his job to purchase a multi-family property. He and Juanita lived in one and his kids in the other two, with a fourth rented out to a tenant, and this again increased his family income. They each paid a small amount of rent into the family treasury, and they used the yard to start a garden and plant fruit trees, which lowered their food bill. This was John's life's work, but he created something that outlived him and the fundamental layer of his family dynasty. So when you combine your resources, you open up more opportunities for yourself and, more importantly, for your family. The more you do, the more family members you have, and the longer the time span, the greater the compounding effect. And it starts with your decision to act on this concept. But it doesn't end there. This isn't the final form of your generational wealth. From here, you must take it to the next level.
You're watching Dynasty Foundry.
The collective approach requires a lot of love, patience, passion, and cooperation, especially a lot of that last one. But done right, it's going to alter the fate of your bloodline forever. The resources that you pull through the collective strategy serve as seed capital to create more opportunities for your family. It isn't an end goal in itself, but a pathway to create generational wealth through the collective effort of you and your family. But it starts with you and your decision to build your dynasty and the way in which you lead them as the patriarch. Eventually you're going to be evolving these into one of the other two methods, but I'm going to save those for another video, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss those. And while you're down there, do me a favor and hit the like button. It not only helps me out, but it also tells the algorithm that you want to see and learn more about generational wealth. And wait, before you go, I've left a link in the description to grab some free resources, so be sure to grab those too. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.